Imagine a creature the size of your thumb that can punch with the force of a .22 caliber bullet. A creature that can see colors you've never dreamed of. Colors that don't even have names because human eyes literally cannot perceive them. A creature that can boil water with its fists and shatter aquarium glass with a single strike. Now imagine that this creature has been living in our oceans for 400 million years, perfecting the art of violence into something that looks like modern art, mixed with a superhero origin story. This is the mantis shrimp, and it might just be the most incredibly overpowered animal that has ever evolved. Welcome to the story of nature's ultimate knockout artist. Let's start with what you think you know. You've probably heard of shrimp. Maybe you've eaten them. Little curved things, pink when cooked, harmless bottom feeders that scuttle around avoiding predators. Forget everything you know. The mantis shrimp isn't really a shrimp at all. It's a stomatopod, a completely different branch of the crustacean family tree that split off hundreds of millions of years ago and decided to take a very different path. A violent path. A spectacular path. There are over 450 species of mantis shrimp in our oceans, and they range from about an inch long to over a foot. Most are somewhere in the middle, about the length of your hand, and every single one of them is armed with what might be the most devastating weapon system ever created by natural selection. These creatures have been around for approximately 400 million years, long before the first dinosaurs, before trees existed, before fish had even fully conquered the land.
The strike creates cavitation bubbles,
that look
which
remarkably
collapse
similar to modern
into
species,
shockwaves.
suggesting they found their winning formula early and stuck with it. While the world changed around them, continents drifted, ice ages came and went, asteroid impacts wiped out countless species. The mantis shrimp just kept punching. Picture yourself diving down into a coral reef in the Indo-Pacific. The water is crystal clear, warm, alive with color. Fish dart between coral formations. Everything seems peaceful. You spot a hole in the reef, and from that hole a pair of eyes emerges. But these aren't ordinary eyes. They're mounted on stalks that move independently, each one scanning the environment like a radar dish. And they're not just looking at you, they're analyzing you in ways your brain can't even comprehend. Then you see the rest of it. The mantis shrimp emerges from its burrow, and the first thing that hits you is the color. Depending on the species, it might be electric blue and green. It might be blazing red and orange. It might be rainbow striped like a neon sign. Some species look like they were painted by someone who had access to colors that shouldn't exist. And there, folded beneath its body like a switchblade, are the weapons. Two club-like appendages, or in some species, two spear-like appendages, waiting, watching, ready. This is the peacock mantis shrimp, one of the most spectacular and deadly of its kind. And it's about to show you something that defies belief. A hermit crab scuttles across the sandy bottom, minding its own business. It's safe inside its borrowed shell, or so it thinks. The mantis shrimp sees it. Those incredible eyes track every movement, calculating distance, trajectory, timing. The mantis shrimp doesn't need to chase its prey. It doesn't need to sneak up on it. It just needs one shot. What happens next occurs so fast that if you blink, you'll miss it entirely. The mantis shrimp's club-like appendage, called a dactyl club, unfolds like a spring-loaded trap. It accelerates faster than a .22 caliber bullet, leaving the barrel of a gun. We're talking about 50 miles per hour in a fraction of a second, underwater, from a creature the size of a cigar. The club impacts the hermit crab's shell, and here's where it gets truly insane. The club moves so fast through the water that it creates an area of low pressure behind it, a cavitation bubble. When that bubble collapses, it produces a secondary shockwave. This shockwave is so powerful that it generates light, actual light, called sonoluminescence. For a brief moment, the temperature inside that bubble reaches nearly 8,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's almost as hot as the surface of the sun. Let me say that again. The mantis shrimp punches so hard that it briefly creates temperatures as hot as the sun's surface. The hermit crab's shell doesn't just crack, it explodes. The crab inside is simultaneously crushed by the initial impact and cooked by the shockwave. It's over before the crab's nervous system can even register pain. One punch, dead. The mantis shrimp calmly drags its meal back to its burrow. Just another Tuesday. But how? How is this even possible? Let's rewind and look at the engineering marvel that makes this weapon work. The mantis shrimp's club isn't just a hard piece of shell. It's a sophisticated piece of bioengineering that would make a materials scientist weep with envy. The outer layer is made of hydroxyapatite, the same stuff that makes up your teeth and bones. But it's arranged in a spiral structure that distributes impact forces perfectly, preventing the club from shattering when it hits something. Behind that is a layer of chitin arranged in a helical pattern, like the fibers in carbon fiber composite. This layer absorbs the shock and prevents cracks from propagating through the structure. And beneath all of that is the spring mechanism. The mantis shrimp has a saddle-shaped structure made of elastic proteins. When it prepares to strike, muscles pull on this saddle, compressing it like a spring or a drawn bow. A latch mechanism holds everything in place, storing all that potential energy. Then, when the moment is right, the latch releases. The saddle snaps forward, pulling the club with it at speeds that seem to violate the laws of physics. The whole strike takes about 3 milliseconds, 0.003 of a second from stored energy to devastation. Scientists have filmed this process with high-speed cameras running at thousands of frames per second, and even then, the strike is almost too fast to see clearly. It's like watching lightning in slow motion. And here's the kicker. The mantis shrimp can do this hundreds of thousands of times over its lifetime without the club breaking. When the club does eventually wear down, the mantis shrimp simply molts and grows a brand new one. Fresh weapons, ready to go. Aquarium owners have learned this the hard way. Mantis shrimp have been known to shatter the glass walls of their tanks with a single punch. There are stories, probably exaggerated but based in truth, of mantis shrimp being shipped in double-layered plastic containers because they punched their way out of single-walled ones. One researcher at UC Berkeley reportedly had a mantis shrimp shatter the glass of a specialized high-speed camera he was using to film it. The camera cost thousands of dollars. The mantis shrimp was probably just annoyed. But the punch is only half the story. Remember those eyes. Let's talk about what it means to see the world as a mantis shrimp sees it. You have 3 types of color receptors in your eyes. They detect red, green, and blue light. Your brain combines these 3 channels to create the full spectrum of colors you can see. Millions of different shades, from crimson to violet and everything in between. The mantis shrimp has 16 types of color receptors. 16. They can see ultraviolet light that's completely invisible to us. They can see polarized light, the orientation of light waves as they bounce off surfaces. They can see circular polarized light, which scientists only recently figured out how to detect with specialized equipment. Imagine trying to explain color to someone who can only see in black and white. That's roughly the gap between your color vision and a mantis shrimp's color vision. There are colors in their world that you literally cannot imagine because you don't have the hardware to process them. And remember, each eye moves independently. So while one eye is looking forward, tracking prey, the other might be scanning the environment for threats. Each eye has trinocular vision, meaning each eye alone can judge depth and distance. They don't need to use both eyes together like we do. Scientists have tested their vision in labs, and the results are baffling. In one experiment, they trained mantis shrimp to recognize different colors. The shrimp learned fast, probably faster than the scientists expected. But here's the weird part. They don't seem to process color information the same way we do. We compare colors. Our brain takes the input from our 3 receptors and calculates the relationships between them to determine what color we're seeing. It's sophisticated processing. The mantis shrimp seems to skip that step. With 16 color receptors, they might be recognizing colors directly, matching what they see to pre-programmed templates. It's a completely alien way of perceiving the world. Faster, but less flexible. Perfect for a predator that needs to make split-second decisions. They can also see cancer. No, really. Researchers have discovered that certain types of cancer cells reflect polarized light differently than healthy cells. The mantis shrimp can see this difference. Scientists are now developing cameras based on Mantis shrimp vision to detect cancer earlier than current technology allows. A shrimp is teaching us how to save human lives. Now, there are two main types of Mantis shrimp, and their hunting strategies are completely different. First, you have the smashers, like our peacock Mantis shrimp. These are the ones with the clubs. They hunt hard-shelled prey, crabs, snails, clams, other crustaceans. Anything with armor. They see it, they punch it, they eat it. Simple, brutal, effective. Then you have the spearers. Spearers have appendages lined with sharp spines instead of clubs. They hunt soft-bodied prey, fish, worms, squid. They don't punch, they stab. And they're just as fast. A spearer Mantis shrimp will hide in the sand or in a burrow, perfectly camouflaged, completely still. It can wait for hours without moving. Just those independently moving eyes, scanning, watching, calculating. A fish swims by. The spearer's appendages shoot forward like harpoons, impaling the fish from multiple angles at once. The spines fold inward, creating a cage that the fish cannot escape from. Then, the Mantis shrimp drags its prey back into the burrow to eat at its leisure. The whole attack takes milliseconds. The fish never knew what hit it. Both types, smashers and spearers, are incredibly territorial. They find a burrow or a crevice in the reef, and they claim it. That burrow becomes their home, their fortress, their hunting ground. They'll defend it against anything. And I mean anything. Scientists have observed Mantis shrimp fighting off octopuses, animals many times their size with 8 arms and a beak that can crack shells. The Mantis shrimp doesn't back down. It punches, repeatedly, until the octopus decides this meal isn't worth the headache and leaves. There are videos online of Mantis shrimp fighting moray eels, lobsters, even small sharks. They don't always win, but they never surrender. They fight with an intensity that seems almost personal. But here's what might be the most surprising thing about Mantis shrimp. They're not mindless killing machines. They're actually pretty sophisticated. They recognize individual Mantis shrimp. They remember who they've fought before and how those fights went. If they lost to a particular rival, they'll avoid that individual in future encounters. If they won, they'll be more aggressive next time they meet. They communicate. Smashers will drum their clubs against their burrows to warn off intruders, like knocking on a door, except the door is rock and the knock sounds like gunfire. The vibrations travel through the water and the substrate, telling everyone in the area, this spot is taken, move along. Some species are even monogamous. They pair up and share a burrow, working together to defend their territory and raise their young. The male and female coordinate their hunting, take turns guarding the entrance, and communicate through a series of visual displays and physical gestures. When they mate, the female carries the eggs in her arms, literally holding them close to her body, protecting them, fanning them with water to keep them oxygenated. She'll stay in the burrow for weeks, barely eating, focused entirely on keeping her eggs safe until they hatch. When the larvae hatch, they're tiny transparent versions of their parents, drifting in the plankton. Most will be eaten. The ocean is a cruel place for something so small and vulnerable. But the few that survive will eventually settle on the reef, find a burrow, and begin their own violent lives. Let's talk about what it's like to be on the receiving end of that punch. There's a researcher named Roy Caldwell at UC Berkeley who spent decades studying Mantis shrimp. He's been punched more times than he can count. He describes it as one of the most painful experiences in marine biology. The first time, he says, he wasn't expecting it. He was moving a Mantis shrimp from one tank to another, holding it gently with his fingers. The shrimp rotated its body and struck. The pain was immediate and intense, not just from the impact but from the shockwave, that cavitation bubble we talked about earlier. It felt like being stabbed and electrocuted at the same time. His finger swelled up immediately.
The strike creates
turning
cavitation
purple
bubbles,
and
which
black.
collapse into
It hurt
shockwaves.
for
This some
days.
brief flash of
And
light.
this was from a relatively
The strike
small
creates
Mantis
cavitation
shrimp.
bubbles, which
Divers
collapse
who've
into
been struck by
shockwaves.
larger
This some brief
specimens
flash
describe
of
it as
light.
being hit with a hammer
A creature the
underwater.
size of your thumb
The
that
impact
punches
can
with the
break
force of a
fingers,
bullet. Meet the
crack
mantis
diving
shrimp,
masks,
nature's ultimate
split
knockout
open
artist.
flesh.
A creature
And
the
because
size
the
of your
strike
thumb
is so
that punches
fast,
with the force of a
you
bullet.
often
Meet
don't
the
see it
mantis
coming.
shrimp, nature's
One moment
ultimate
you're
knockout
reaching
artist.
toward a hole
The
in
strike
reef.
creates
The
cavitation
next
bubbles,
moment,
which
you're pulling
collapse
back
into
a hand that's
shockwaves.
bleeding
This some
and
brief
throbbing
intense flash of
There are
light.
stories from fishermen in Southeast
The mantis shrimp
Asia
has
of
16
mantis
color
shrimp
receptors.
breaking
Humans
through the
have
nets
only
that
3.
catch them, punching holes right through the woven
The mantis
material.
shrimp cocks its
Other
spring-loaded
stories
claw.
tell of mantis shrimp
It releases,
being thrown into boats,
delivering a
where they
devastating
proceed
blow.
to attack anything
The
and
mantis
everything
shrimp
around
cocks
them,
its spring-loaded
forcing
claw.
the crew to handle them with
It
thick
releases,
gloves or risk
delivering a
broken
devastating
fingers.
blow.
In some
The
cultures,
mantis
they
shrimp
call
has
mantis
16
shrimp
color
thumb
receptors.
splitters.
Humans have only
The
3.
name tells you everything you need to know.
The mantis
So
shrimp
why
cocks
did
its
evolution
spring-loaded
create
claw.
something this powerful?
It releases,
The answer
delivering a
lies in the
devastating
environment
blow.
The
where
mantis shrimp's
shrimp
club
live.
can withstand incredible
Coral
impacts.
reefs are
We're studying its
incredibly
layered structure for new
competitive
armor.
It's a
ecosystems.
blueprint from nature.
Every square inch is claimed by someone. Food is abundant, but so are predators. If you want to survive, you need an edge. For the mantis shrimp, that edge became specialization. They didn't
mantis
evolve
shrimp's
to be
club can withstand
generalists
incredible
that could do a
impacts.
little
We're studying
bit of
its layered
everything.
structure for
They
new
evolved
armor.
to
It's
do
a blueprint
one
from
thing better
nature.
than anyone else.
The mantis shrimp
Deliver
stores energy in
devastating,
its coiled
precise
clubs.
strikes
A
to
latch
break through
releases the impact
defenses that
creates
other predators
cavitation
couldn't
bubbles and
crack.
immense force. The
Crabs
mantis shrimp
hiding in
stores
their
energy in
shells
its coiled clubs.
punch
A latch
through it.
releases the
Clams
impact creates
locked
cavitation
tight.
bubbles and immense
Smash them
force.
open.
Meet the mantis shrimp,
Snails with
nature's
thick armor,
ultimate knockout
not a
artist.
problem.
In this
And those
episode of Echoes of the
incredible
Wild,
eyes.
meet
They
the
help
mantis
identify
shrimp,
prey,
nature's
spot
ultimate
predators,
knockout artist.
communicate with
In this
rivals,
episode
and
of
find
Echoes of the
mates.
Wild,
All in an environment where camouflage and deception are everywhere. When you can see in 16 color channels and detect polarized light, it's much harder for prey to hide and much easier to spot danger. Over millions of years, the mantis shrimp refined these abilities. The punch got faster. The club got stronger. The eyes got more complex. Each generation pushed the limits of what's physically possible, creating a creature that seems almost designed rather than evolved. Now, here's a question you're probably wondering. Can you eat them? The answer is yes, and people have been eating mantis shrimp for thousands of years. In many coastal cultures across Asia and the Mediterranean, mantis shrimp are considered a delicacy. The Japanese call them shako and serve them as sushi, often boiled and presented with their beautiful shells still on. In Italian cuisine, especially in the Adriatic region, they're called cannocchi and are grilled, fried, or added to pasta dishes. In Spain, they're galeras. In Cantonese cuisine, they're steamed with garlic or salt and pepper. The taste. People describe it as sweeter and more delicate than regular shrimp, with meat that's tender and slightly buttery. The texture is closer to lobster than shrimp, firmer, meatier, more substantial. The best meat comes from the tail, though some cultures eat the entire body. But here's the catch, they're incredibly difficult to harvest safely and sustainably. First, there's the obvious danger. Commercial fishermen have to handle them with thick gloves or risk broken fingers. In traditional fishing communities throughout Southeast Asia, experienced fishers have techniques passed down through generations for safely grabbing mantis shrimp, usually by the sides of the carapace where the clubs can't reach. Even then, accidents happen. Many veteran fishermen have scars from their encounters. Second, mantis shrimp don't school like regular shrimp. They're solitary, territorial creatures. You can't trawl for them efficiently. Most are caught individually by divers or in baited traps, making them labor-intensive to harvest. Third, their populations are vulnerable to overfishing because they reproduce relatively slowly for their size and are tied to specific reef habitats. When a coral reef is damaged or destroyed, the mantis shrimp lose their homes, those burrows they defend so ferociously. In high-end restaurants across Asia, a plate of mantis shrimp can cost significantly more than regular shrimp or even lobster. You're not just paying for the taste, you're paying for the risk, the labor, and the rarity. Ancient cultures didn't just eat them, though. They respected them. In some Pacific Island traditions, the mantis shrimp appears in creation stories and legends as a warrior spirit or a symbol of strength and precision. Fishermen would sometimes keep mantis shrimp shells as good luck charms, believing they held protective power. Historical records from ancient China, dating back over 2,000 years, mention mantis shrimp in medical texts. Traditional Chinese medicine practitioners believed that consuming mantis shrimp could improve vision, which, given what we now know about their incredible eyes, seems almost prophetic. They also prescribed them for kidney health and to boost energy. In the Mediterranean, Roman naturalists wrote about sea mantises in their observations of marine life, noting their aggressive behavior and beautiful coloring. Though their understanding was limited compared to modern science, they recognized these creatures as something special, something different from ordinary crustaceans. Japanese woodblock prints from the Edo period sometimes featured mantis shrimp among other seafood at fish markets, depicted with their distinctive eyes and colorful patterns. They were prized then as they are now, both for their flavor and for the skill required to catch them. Today, mantis shrimp are served in Michelin-starred restaurants, appear in seafood markets from Hong Kong to Barcelona, and have become something of a cult favorite among adventurous eaters who seek out unusual delicacies. Celebrity chefs have featured them on cooking shows, praising their unique flavor and dramatic presentation. But there's a growing movement towards sustainable consumption and even farming. Some aquaculture operations in Southeast Asia are experimenting with raising mantis shrimp in controlled environments. Though it's challenging, remember, they're territorial and aggressive even with their own species. They need individual burrows, specific water conditions, and careful monitoring. Conservation organizations are also working to protect the reef habitats that mantis shrimp depend on, recognizing that these creatures are indicators of reef health. Where mantis shrimp thrive, the ecosystem is usually in good shape. Today, scientists are studying mantis shrimp for all sorts of reasons. Engineers want to understand how the club can survive impacts without breaking. The structure could inspire new types of armor, aircraft hulls, or protective equipment for athletes and military personnel. Imagine a helmet designed using Mantis Shrimp Club principles. It could save lives. Materials. Scientists are examining the layers of the club under electron microscopes, mapping out every detail of how the fibers are arranged. They're trying to recreate it using synthetic materials, hoping to build something equally strong and lightweight. Robotics researchers are studying the spring mechanism, trying to replicate that explosive release of energy in mechanical systems. A robot with mantis, shrimp-inspired actuators could deliver powerful strikes or movements with minimal energy input. And those eyes, they're revolutionizing camera technology. Engineers have built cameras that can see polarized light like mantis shrimp do. These cameras can detect things that normal cameras miss: stress in materials, chemical residues, even cancer cells, like we mentioned earlier. The military is interested in using this technology for improved targeting systems and threat detection. Medical researchers are exploring how the mantis shrimp's ability to see polarized light could be used in surgical settings, allowing doctors to see structures inside the body more clearly without invasive procedures. All of this from a creature that most people have never heard of. But that anonymity is changing. The mantis shrimp has become something of an internet celebrity in recent years. A viral webcomic called The Oatmeal created a comic about the mantis shrimp that's been viewed millions of times, introducing countless people to these creatures for the first time. Videos of mantis shrimp punching through crab shells rack up millions of views on YouTube. They've become the subject of memes, educational videos, and even inspired characters in video games and animated movies. The scientific study of mantis shrimp has a fascinating history of its own. Western scientists first began seriously studying them in the 1800s, though indigenous peoples in tropical regions had known about them for millennia. Early naturalists were baffled by their behavior and appearance. Some thought they were a type of praying mantis that had somehow adapted to ocean life, hence the name mantis shrimp. Others couldn't believe the reports of their striking power, dismissing fishermen's stories as exaggeration. It wasn't until the 1960s and 70s that researchers began to truly understand what they were dealing with. Dr. Roy Caldwell, who we mentioned earlier, began his career studying mantis shrimp in the 1970s and is still researching them today, nearly 5 decades of dedication to understanding these creatures. His early papers describing their strike mechanics were met with skepticism. The speeds he measured seemed impossible for a biological system. It took high-speed photography, developed in the 1980s and refined in the 1990s, for the scientific community to finally see what was happening. When researchers could film the strike at thousands of frames per second, breaking down those 3 milliseconds into observable segments, the full picture emerged. The cavitation bubbles became visible. The spring mechanism was revealed. The sonoluminescence, that flash of light, was captured on camera. The discovery that they could see polarized light came even later, in the early 2000s. Researchers were testing their color vision when they noticed something strange. The mantis shrimp were responding to patterns that should have been invisible based on color alone. Further investigation revealed their ability to detect polarized light, opening up an entirely new field of study. And we're still discovering new things. In 2016, researchers found that some mantis shrimp species use fluorescent patterns on their bodies to communicate, patterns that are invisible to most predators but glow brilliantly to other mantis shrimp. In 2019, scientists discovered that the spring mechanism is even more sophisticated than previously thought, with multiple stages of energy storage that work together. Every time we think we've figured them out, mantis shrimp reveal another layer of complexity. But perhaps the most important lesson from the mantis shrimp isn't about engineering or medicine. It's about perspective. We live in a world we think we understand. We see colors, we hear sounds, we feel textures. We think we're experiencing reality as it truly is. But the mantis shrimp reminds us that we're only seeing a tiny slice of what's actually out there. There are colors all around us that we cannot see. Light waves bouncing off every surface, carrying information that we cannot detect. Patterns and signals invisible to our eyes, but perfectly clear to others. The mantis shrimp lives in the same ocean we swim in, hunts in the same reefs we explore, but it experiences a completely different world. A world of colors we cannot name, of details we cannot perceive, of beauty and violence happening on timescales too fast for us to comprehend. And it's been doing this for 400 million years. It survived the extinction that killed the dinosaurs. It survived ice ages and global warming cycles. It survived countless environmental changes that wiped out entire families of marine life. And it's still here, in those coral reefs, in those rocky crevices, waiting in its burrow with those incredible eyes and those devastating clubs, still hunting, still fighting, still seeing the world in ways we can barely imagine. So the next time you see a shrimp cocktail, remember, there's a distant relative out there that could punch through the plate it's served on. The next time you visit an aquarium and see those colorful creatures in the tropical reef exhibit, look closer. Look for the burrows. Look for those independently moving eyes on stalks. Look for the flash of impossible colors. And if you're lucky enough to see one, take a moment to appreciate what you're looking at. 400 million years
The mantis
of evolution,
shrimp cocks its
creating
spring-loaded
something
claw.
that seems to break
It
the
releases,
rules.
delivering a
creature that
devastating
punches
blow.
like a
The strike
boxer,
creates
sees
cavitation
like a
bubbles,
science
which
fiction
collapse into
character,
shockwaves.
and lives
This
like a
submarine
warrior.
in flash of
The
light.
mantis shrimp,
A creature the
nature's
size of your
knockout
thumb
artist,
that punches with
the
the force
most
of a bullet.
overpowered
Meet the mantis
predator in the
shrimp,
ocean.
nature's ultimate
A
knockout
tiny,
artist.
Beautiful,
The mantis shrimp has
terrifying
16
masterpiece,
color
and a
receptors.
reminder
Humans have
that
only
the world
3.
is stranger, more violent,
The mantis
and
shrimp's
more
club can
spectacular
withstand
than we
incredible
ever
impacts.
imagined.
We're studying its layered
If you
structure
loved
for
this
new
deep
armor.
dive
It's a
into one of
blueprint from
nature's
nature.
most incredible
The mantis
predators,
shrimp stores
make
energy
sure
in
you
its
smash
coiled
that
clubs. A
subscribe
latch
button
releases
and
the
hit
impact
bell
creates
so you
cavitation
never
bubbles
miss
and
an
immense
episode of
force.
Echoes
Meet
of
the
the
mantis
Wild.
shrimp,
We're
nature's
exploring the
ultimate
most
knockout
mind-blowing
artist.
creatures on our
In this
planet,
episode of
from the
Echoes of the
microscopic
Wild,
to the massive, from the ancient to the bizarre. Drop a thumbs up if the mantis shrimp just became your new favorite animal, and leave a comment telling us, what creature should we explore next?
the strike creates
The immortal
cavitation bubbles,
jellyfish
which
that
collapse into
reverses aging,
shockwaves.
the
This
pistol
submarine
shrimp
in
that
flash of
creates
light.
sun temperature bubbles, the mimic octopus that shape-shifts into other animals? Let us know. Subscribe to Echoes of the Wild. Until next time, keep exploring, keep wondering. And remember, somewhere in the ocean right now, a mantis shrimp just punched something so hard it briefly created the temperature of the sun. Nature is wild.